Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever time of day you're choosing to watch this. Thank you for being here. I'm Avillion Talks. This is my cat, and I am joined by my good friend Brayden, aka Dallas Benchwarmer. And it's a bit early, but when you're done watching this video, we actually have a playoff predictions video that follows up this one over on Brayden's channel. So go check that one out when we're done here. But how you doing?
What's up, buddy?
It's good to be here. Good to see you.
Yeah,
You
let's
look
get into
good.
this.
Look very
You
good.
look great.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, you want to go ahead and kick off the NFC side of things here? Starting with the NFC
Yeah,
North, what we got?
yeah, we'll kick off with the NFC North. My predictions are first place in the NFC North, the Detroit Lions, second place, Minnesota Vikings, third place, the Chicago Bears, and dead last, the Green Bay Packers. Now, I don't think the Packers necessarily have a bad season.
Right.
I just think um, first year starting for Jordan Love, there might be some woes, but I bet he, by the end of the year, looks good enough to build around and to continue forward with him. I'm not expecting um, tragedy in Green Bay, but just worse than the other teams. Lions, I think they looked pretty good, especially in the second half of the season. So I'm going to picking them to continue that strong push, win the division this year. Vikings, I think that they're worse than last year. Probably pretty noticeably because they were whatever seed they were last year.
They
Can't
were
remember.
the three, I
Did they
believe.
fall to the? Because I know there were two for the longest time. Did they fall to the three?
I'm not. I think San Francisco might have been the two. I think San Francisco was the
Yeah,
two
you're probably right. I guess they probably
because
passed them.
they won every game that McCaffrey started. So I think Minnesota dropped a
Yeah.
couple, and then yeah,
Okay. But yeah, so the Vikings, I think they won like nine. They were like 9-0 in one score games or something like that. That's not gonna repeat.
there's just no way you can't get that lucky 2 years in a row.
So
It's
they fall, and I think it's a very tight race between two and three. I go back and forth on picking between the Vikings and the Bears. For this video and for the playoff prediction video, I got the Vikings winning that battle between them and the Bears having a pretty good season comparatively, especially the last year. They're going to have probably the biggest win boost, but still finish third in this division, according to me. With Justin Fields looking like not quite MVP like everyone says he will, but looking like a very competent starter that you want to build around and put more pieces with. So that's my prediction for the NFC
and
North.
I think that's a very fair prediction for the division. I think in general it's a tough division to predict because there's a lot of question marks for every team. Minnesota completely
Mm.
reshuffled their roster. The Bears added a lot of talent, but they also had the worst record in the league last year. Green Bay is in the middle of a retooling, I suppose, as well. And then there's Detroit, who, like you said, finished very strong last year, but I don't know if they capitalized as much as they possibly could have in the offseason to really bring themselves over the hump. But with that being said, they are also my division winner as well. I still think they're the cream of the crop here in the NFC North. I think they have done enough to bring themselves over the hump. I think Green Bay and Minnesota both got worse this offseason, and I think the Bears got better. I don't know that they got better enough to be better than Detroit this year. I have more faith in Jared Goff than I do Justin Fields at this point. That could
Uh,
that could be a terrible take come week 17 or whatever, but we don't know until then. But number two, I do have Chicago. I think they will ultimately end up being the 7th seed in this conference. I think they're going to be plenty good enough to make the playoffs in what is a weaker conference than the AFC. And I think Justin Fields will be okay, at the very least, as a passer. I think he'll be better than he was last year, and we all know what he can do with
mm,
his legs. And then number three, I have Green Bay. I have enough faith in Jordan Love to
mm,
get there. And like I agree that they won't make the playoffs, and they may not even have a winning season. It may be an 8-9 or a 9-8 or 7-10, whatever the case may be, because they've got some things going on right now. But excuse you,
special guest.
he's awesome. But and then of course Minnesota at number four, but that's not a negative statement about the team. I think they have work to do on defense. The secondary is a huge question mark. Harrison Smith's not getting any younger. You need to see more from Andrew Booth this year, and there's a lot of question marks there. I have faith in Alexander Madison to be a decent running back. I like the receiver room. I like Jordan Addison a lot. Of course, Justin
Yeah,
Jefferson's arguably the best in the league. In my opinion, he is the
I've
best in the
got.
league. And Hawkinson's fantastic. But ow, Jesus.
Cat attack.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, I have Madison, Jefferson, and um, Addison across different fantasy leagues. So I do need the offense to still do what he did last year.
I also have Madison. I just drafted him last night, and I think he'll get a lot of volume. He'll be a good fantasy option, but I don't think there's any bad teams in this division. I don't think anybody also sticks out to me in this either. This could be any order of teams in the top four finish, and it wouldn't surprise me anyway. Um,
Yeah, it's a lot of
this is
chaos,
one of the toughest to predict in the NFL this year. I think just
probably.
because almost every team has question marks. Not necessarily
Yeah.
bad question marks, but we just don't know a
Eh,
lot about these teams. You don't know.
I don't know how many times question marks is not a bad thing.
Well, it's usually
It's
not a
just
good
not
thing, but I mean, you never know.
catastrophic.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah. I think there's not. I mean, I know we have different orders, but it doesn't sound like we have any crazy disagreements in the division. You
Well,
want to go
we
ahead and move
we have
on
we
to
have
the
similar reasonings for all of our
yeah,
teams. I think we feel similarly about them. We just feel differently about how it's going to shape up.
yeah. So do you want to move on to the East,
Yeah, yeah. Let's do
the
it.
NFC Beast?
The NFC Beast carrying the
Yeah,
conference right now. Who would have thunk it?
formerly the NFC Least.
Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it?
Not me.
No, not me either. But they did
No,
great
I mean
last
I
year.
did. I feel like this is the best division in the history of the NFL.
If you look at historically, sure, but in the last
Yeah,
2 decades or whatever, no, not by any stretch of the imagination. But
yeah, but I'm looking historically. Name
I
another division that
understand.
has all Super Bowl winners.
Well, and they're one of the best divisions in the league right now, I would say.
Yeah, but in the NFC Beast, the NFC Best,
Mm-hmm.
not for the conference, but for the division, is going to be the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh,
I
brother.
think if I'll just list everybody and then we'll go into reasoning. So that's
Of
probably what we
course.
should do.
Of
So
course.
first, the Dallas Cowboys coming in second, the Philadelphia Eagles, third, the New York Giants, and fourth, the Washington Commanders. I think Dak probably bounces back from last year. I think the interception total was a bit over exaggerated. I don't feel like I don't feel like a lot of them were truly his fault. Some bad
Mm-hmm.
throws out there, but just some bad luck when it comes to the interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles, even if they replace the coordinators good enough, I feel like losing both coordinators, there will be a bit of an adjustment period that might hold them back a little bit, at least to start the season, not overly, um,
Right.
as well as a bit of a Super Bowl hangover that we seen every team get. Even though I think they make the playoffs,
Of course.
um, it's not like the Hangover movie style of hangover. It's just a slight headache in the next morning. The New York Giants, I feel like Brian Daboll is probably one of the better head coaches in the NFL. Daniel Jones with Saquon Barkley looked good enough last year, and
Right.
he's going to have Saquon Barkley again, at least for this one more season. If Barkley stays healthy, I see them finishing third in the division. And then Washington, this could be a surprise team if Sam Howell is what he looked like in the preseason. But even if he's good and a starting quarterback in the NFL going forward, I don't know if he's enough with Ron Rivera kind of probably holding that team back a little bit um, to finish any higher than fourth. And probably, in my opinion, the best division in football.
I would agree that well, I think it's the second
It's
best division in football, personally. I think I got
it's them,
one
the
other.
AFC North, and the NFC North.
I was going to say the AFC North, I think, is the best division in the NFL, but of course, we'll get to them later.
Yeah.
I feel what you're saying there with Philly and why they could finish second in the division. I still think they
Mm-hmm.
finish first, and maybe they do get
Spoilers.
off to a slow start. If you replace two coordinators, there could be some miscues early in the season. You could
Yeah, I don't
see.
think it tanks the season, but I think it's the difference between being the wild card team versus the division winner.
Right. I understand. And I think Dallas, ultimately, when they play their best football, could end up being a better team. I think Dak Prescott's best game is better than Jalen Hurts' best game. If you asked me, hey, take one of these at 100% for one game, who do you? I would take Dak Prescott. I think he's had some better individual performances in his career, though.
Yeah.
I think Philadelphia's depth at every position except wide receiver is phenomenal. I think, knock on wood, even if Jalen Hurts tore his ACL week one, Mariota would take them to the playoffs. In that case, Dallas would win the division, but um,
Does Mariota still have it?
he doesn't need to. Yeah, I could score. I could run 500 yards behind that offensive line. It doesn't matter. They would just pound the rock, and defense is fantastic. They'd win games like that. They'd play smash mouth old school football, and that'd be it. That's all they'd have to do. But I do have Dallas coming in second. Micah Parsons, at this point, probably is the best defensive player in the NFL. I think, based
Yeah,
on
defensive player of the
versatility.
year loading.
Yeah, he's my pick this year.
So what is your order for the division?
Well, Philly number one, Dallas number two. I like the receiver room. I think CeeDee Lamb will take another step this year. I've always been high on CeeDee. I like CeeDee quite a lot. And I think the tight end room, maybe there's no individual standout there, but there's guys, Jake Ferguson, Peyton Hendershot. There's guys in that room that hopefully you see one of them break out. Ferguson's very similar to Schultz, so maybe we see him in that security blanket type role that Schultz has been playing the last few years. And the secondary's looking pretty nice. I like.
Oh yeah,
They got three safeties that are playable. You got Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore on the outside. You have Noah Igbenogany now, which is an interesting one.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully.
Change of scenery, does it help him? Maybe.
Yeah, he's
Dan
still
Quinn?
only
Probably.
he's still only like 23 years old, so you never know with a guy like him.
Yeah.
He was drafted at 20. He could still grow. And I mean, the pass rush. I can't say anything that hasn't been said already. The pass rush is awesome. The interior of the defensive line is getting better year by year, I believe. I love Osa.
Chris Jones trade?
You never know.
If that happened, that would probably change.
Chris Jones actually liked a tweet that was it was
I saw
bait.
that.
I'm pretty sure it was not a real news source, but it was a Cowboys fan who posted some news, and Chris Jones liked the tweet. So who knows?
A first and one of our young D tackles for Chris Jones.
Yep. Hopefully not Osa though. I love Osa. Just don't be Osa. But then number two,
it has to be Osa.
It would have to be Osa. That's what's sad about it. But number two, I have the Giants, and I think they just
Number three,
the Giants. I think they narrowly miss out on the playoffs this year, just because there's a ceiling with this team as long as Daniel Jones is the quarterback. And I hate saying it because I love Brian Daboll and I love Mike Kafka, and I think what they've done with the offense has been nothing short of fantastic, especially
I think he looked pretty decent last year, and you give him better weapons to throw to. I mean, they made the playoffs last year. Mm-hmm. I bet they do it again.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if they did, but Daniel Jones, there's a certain way you have to play him for him to be as successful as he was. I mean, they ran more bootlegs than anybody in the league last year, and it wasn't even close. That was like a quarter of their offense, of their passing offense, was just bootleg. If your guy's open, throw it. If he's not open, run it. And it worked, to give them credit.
The runner that he is, yeah.
I think Mike Kafka's awesome. He did a great job with play design last year. Saquon Barkley looked great, and hopefully he's healthy again this year. Hopefully he continues to look great because, I think football is a better sport when Saquon Barkley's on the field, ultimately.
Great.
And the wide receiver room
except
should
for when
be
he's
better
playing
this
Dallas.
year, except for when he's playing Dallas. I'll concede that to you. But the wide receiver room should be better this year, which is a low bar because last year it was one of the worst in the league. Yeah. So hopefully Jalen Hyatt can make an impact. Daniel Jones.
Oh yeah, rookie sensation.
Daniel Jones has always been a pretty good deep ball thrower. So Hyatt has no problem getting open. We saw it for 13 games in college football last year. No, 12. Excuse me. He didn't play in the bowl game, but I think he makes a pretty good impact, at least in his rookie year.
Okay. And then Commanders rounding out yours.
Yes, and what holds his team back for me, I think, is Ron Rivera.
Of course.
I think at this point in his career,
Chase Young's health.
That too. He had a setback again, which, man, you just hate to see. He's like the Michael Thomas of defense. He just can't get on the field, and it's awful.
At least Chase Young isn't tanking fantasy teams.
Well, if you draft Washington's defense every year, you'd probably hope, But I get what you mean. I know you drafted MT 2 years in a row, and did you draft him again this year?
I don't think I have him anywhere, but I should probably double check that.
I thought about drafting him last night. I said no, I'm not gonna do it. It was like round 7.
Because it's like, oh baby, if he's healthy, what it could be. But
I took big play Trey instead. I got Treylon Burks last night. But Ron Rivera at this point almost feels like more of a fan than a head coach. I mean, I don't know how you as a head coach don't know that your team has a chance of being eliminated in a football game. I also don't know that how are you surprised by how good your quarterback is.
Yeah, how are
You
you, like,
see him
of
in
all
practice every
positions to
day.
not be aware of?
That's the one
That's
you
not the
need
position
to.
to.
I don't care if you're a defensive minded head coach. There's no excuse to not know how good Sam Howell is. Sam Howell is awesome. I love Sam Howell. I think he'll have a
Yeah,
nice year this year. It's just it's too stacked of a division, I think, for them to really have a shot. It wouldn't surprise me maybe if they make some kind of run, make the playoffs this year, but I think
yeah. I mean, they were
coaching
still in it last year. They were in the race last year, so
I think coaching ultimately is what keeps them out of it though. I think the rest of the
probably
division has much better coaching. I think Dallas's coaching is
agreed.
great, Philly's coaching is great, and New York's coaching is great. I think that's the biggest difference here.
Yeah, and that's why the NFC least became the NFC Beast, is they all just hit on coaching hires.
Right at the same
That's all
time.
it was.
All at the same time, they all hit on their
Yeah,
coaches, except
and,
Washington.
and I mean the Cowboys hit. It was more of the coordinator hits than maybe the head coach hit, but it was enough to.
Yeah, Dan Quinn's awesome. I think
Yeah,
he's a better
amazing.
coordinator than he is head coach. I'm glad he chose to stay. I think maybe somewhere deep down he knows that, but I know he also loves Dallas and he wanted to stay another year because
I think he's
he
just become more flexible as a coach and being working more with what he actually has on the roster.
he is not a cover three merchant anymore at this point in his career, which is great to see. He has evolved, so good for him.
Being probably, I mean, a top three defensive coordinator
Yeah,
like him,
yeah, undoubtedly.
Lou Anarumo.
Maybe Vic Fangio.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm excited to see
We'll see.
that Miami
But
defense
yeah,
this
so
year.
do you want to move on to the South?
Absolutely, partner. Let's do it.
Head on down south to the NFC South.
Yes, sir.
This division, I wouldn't be shocked if the division winner had a losing record. I'm not saying I'm picking that, but I would not be shocked. I've seen some people, some hot takes of like, hey, Saints have a super easy schedule. Watch out for them to be in contention for the 1 seed in the NFC East. And I'm like, or not the NFC East, but the NFC overall. And I'm like, that is ridiculous.
I am with you
No.
on that one.
But I do have the Saints as the winner of the division, with the coming in first for the division, Falcons in second, Panthers third, and Bucks pretty comfortably in fourth.
Absolutely.
I think Derek Carr is an upgrade over swapping between Dalton and Winston. Falcons just improving their running game, which was really good last year with one of the best run blocking O lines, putting Bijan Robinson behind it. Full year of Desmond Ritter. I believe they're going to be better at quarterback than they were last year, which is always how you improve a team. Panthers finishing third. I think the defense is going to look pretty good, and I think that Adam Thielen is going to be a very safe target for Bryce Young to grow and develop with.
Absolutely.
And then Baker Mayfield is a quarterback of a team that has a super injured offensive line that, or well, not super, but we know what's going on with Jensen. That's a pretty big loss on the offensive line.
I almost feel bad. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
just
yeah, I do feel bad. So
well,
I got the
Jensen's got
Bucks.
kind of a history, which is the only thing. Got kind of a history of not being the nicest dude sometimes. But that doesn't mean he deserves to get hurt.
Yeah,
It's especially with an injury like this, that like a career killer potentially with how with
yeah.
what his knee's looking like right now. You hate to see it.
I mean, at least Brady came in, gave him a ring before he. I know,
Yeah,
and I think his career earnings is
a good career and a
nine,
Super Bowl,
nine
right?
figures. So
Yeah,
at the very least, he got what you want out of your football career, of a championship and a shit ton of money.
yeah, yeah. He gets
But
to
yeah, that's
retire
how I've got that
well
division
before
looking
most
up.
people do in their lives. Yeah, he's doing all right.
What do you got that division turning out to be?
Well, I feel very similarly in the sense that this could be an 8-9 division winner. However, I think it'll be a 9-8 division winner. I've got
Ooh,
Atlanta winning this division at 9-8.
okay.
New Orleans, I think, will go 8-9, and that somewhat also comes down to coaching. I don't hate Dennis Allen. I don't think he's terrible, but I think he's a Dan Quinn type where he's just better served as a defensive coordinator. He's not
Yeah,
a head coach. Um, Derek Carr is definitely an upgrade, and at the very least, if nothing else, he's stable. He has stabilized the
right.
quarterback
And that's
position.
probably one of the most
You're not
important things in the
asking the
position.
question every week: is it Jameis Winston? Is it Andy Dalton? Is it Taysom Hill? Is it who did they start against Tennessee? Was it last year or 2 years ago? Was it Ian? They started Ian Book once.
Well, that's right.
You don't want Ian Book playing football games. Even at the collegiate level, you didn't want Ian Book playing football games. So you have Derek Carr. You feel better having Derek Carr, I'm sure, than you would anything else they've had the last couple of years since Drew
Yeah.
Brees retired. And even
Yeah,
then,
since Breeze has left.
Derek Carr is better than what Drew Brees was in his last year. That man was his arm was cooked. I mean, he never had much of
Maybe
an
just
arm to
throwing
begin
deep, but
with,
other
but
than that, I don't know.
I mean, he wasn't terrible by any means.
Everything
But
that comes with Drew Brees, I mean, I would take leadership line. You know what he does.
yeah,
You
okay,
know
fair. I
his
mean,
brain.
there's a lot of other things to playing quarterback besides just throwing the ball. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he was one of the best pre-snap quarterbacks
So
ever,
you got
I would say.
Falcons, then Saints.
And then Carolina and Tampa as well.
Okay,
Bryce Young, I think, will ultimately be awesome, but it might be a
ultimate.
bit before we get there. The offensive
Yeah.
line is not bad, but Ike Ekwonu had some struggles in the preseason, and he's a guy that you really want to see take a step up in pass pro, which he was
Mhm.
better as a rookie in pass protection than I think most people thought he would be. But he needs to get there if Bryce Young is going to have a fruitful career. You need a left tackle, ultimately. And you need a wide receiver room, which they might have. We don't really know. Is Terrace Marshall any good? Is Jonathan Mingo awesome? I like Mingo, and I liked Marshall coming out, but at this point, Marshall's got to just prove it.
Chark's over there, I think
And
too.
well, he had an injury. I think it was just a scare, though. I don't think he's
Mm,
hurt. I think he might miss some time, but I don't think he's
okay.
it was potentially season ending when the news was reported. I don't think it is season ending, though. I think I'm not sure. I'll have to look at that later. But I like Chark. Chark's nice. And Mingo, I think, will ultimately round out into a good receiver as the season goes on. He's going to be a much bigger factor. Will probably take over as the one by the time the year's over. And I like Tommy Tremble a lot too. He just another guy who needs to prove it. Just
Yeah.
yeah, get out there, catch some passes. But defensively, they've certainly taken strides over the last couple of years. Derek Brown has people were calling him a bust after his rookie year, which was insane.
People are so quick
You
to
don't
label
call
somebody a
somebody a
bust.
bust after just one season unless what's his name? Isaiah Wilson. Unless you're Isaiah Wilson, then you're allowed to be called a bust after 1 year because he got flipped for a 7th round pick after his rookie season. But unless you're Isaiah Wilson, don't call somebody a bust after just one bad season. Derek Brown's awesome now. One of the better nose
People tried to
tackles in
call
the
C.J.
league.
Stroud a bust after one preseason game
People called Jamar
against the
Chase a bust
Patriots.
because he dropped 3 passes. And he went on
Yeah,
to be a top
I
10 receiver in his rookie year, which of course he was going
yeah.
to
Oh
because he
my.
was Jamar Chase. Like, people are insane with the reactionary attitude people have towards rookies not being as good as advertised. It's their first time playing professional football. Not everybody walks into
Yeah.
the league and plays like Justin Herbert. It's just not how it works. But ultimately, yeah, I think Carolina has some work to do on both sides of the ball, and Frank Reich
Yeah.
certainly raises the floor of a football team.
Yeah. Good. He's a. If you need a good good high floor coach, he's who you get. But if you're trying to win a Super Bowl,
I don't know
probably
that
not.
he'll ever be that guy, but I think he's at least stable, kind of like what Derek Carr is for the Saints. Frank Reich is something similar for the Panthers, and then of
Yeah.
course Tampa Bay, without question, is the worst team in this division. Arguably the they have pieces. I mean, they're not. I think they're definitely a better
Yeah.
roster, top to bottom, than the Cardinals are.
Good
But if
duo
you,
wide receivers.
but I mean, quarterback. At this point, I'm out on Baker Mayfield, and
Yeah.
I'm out
I
on the
feel like
health
I
of
feel
this
like I
offense.
I feel like I'm higher on Drew Lock and what he could be if he goes to a team than I am on Baker Mayfield right
I'm
now.
still higher on Sam Darnold from the same draft class than I am on Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
I think if Darnold was forced to play in San Francisco, had knock on wood, if Brock Purdy gets hurt again, I
Yeah.
think Darnold's going to be a much better. I mean, obviously the system that he has around him is way better than what
Uh
Baker's
huh.
going to have to work with because apparently Byron Leftwich is a fraud, which I didn't know until we saw it last year. The play calling was just not very good, and um, I liked Todd Bowles. I was actually really happy he got a second chance as a head coach, but he's another Dan Quinn, Dennis Allen type. He's really just better served as a defensive coordinator. He's one of the better ones in the league, but he should not be the head coach of a football team.
Right.
But that's my
Now,
NFC South standings there.
yeah. So now we move on to the West,
Indeed, we do, my friend.
where for the NFC West, coming in first in the division, obviously, I got the San Francisco 49ers.
Without
Second,
question.
the Seattle Seahawks. Third, the Rams. And fourth, the Cardinals. I think that's the same order as last season, is it not?
That is the order from last season, I
I
think.
think
Yeah.
so, but it's hard to not pick that again because the
Did
Niners obviously.
the Rams finish? Did the Rams finish ahead of the Cardinals? They did, right?
Not certain.
I'm not certain either
I
because
feel
they
like this
have
is the same order. But when you have the
semantics.
best, maybe the best roster in football, especially just looking at starters, with some of the most quarterback friendly system imaginable that every
Right.
quarterback except for Trey Lance apparently uh, can thrive in.
Kyle
And then we go to
Shanahan
this.
admitted to a lot of the blame on that one, though. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously,
I
I don't know what goes on in the practices, but his
Yeah, I
exact
mean
words
I'm
were,
not
"We
there.
failed him." So
You
who
know,
knows?
as a Cowboys fan, I wouldn't mind if they failed him,
Yeah.
not the other way around.
Yep.
But second, and then I said Seahawks. I mean Geno. I bet Geno. I think that's who Geno is now.
I agree.
And I don't even think his production goes down when you add in Jackson Smith-Njigba and Zach Charbonnet. So you have a insanely good trio of receivers and a two-headed backfield.
Hmm. I
And then the
drafted Zach
defense,
Charbonnet last night, actually, so I agree.
I've got him
He should
too
have a
in a lot of
fantastic year.
leagues. And then Tariq Woolen on defense, and then the rest of the defense, I'm not too informed on. I mean, I don't keep up with Seattle like that. But then with the Rams, um, stars and stars and just random nameless people being their approach to roster building.
Yep.
If they're healthy, which Cooper Kupp being listed as day to day is very concerning because if he's not out there, there's no chance for them. Aaron Donald's out there. If Stafford's out there, it's like, okay, we got our stars. Can we get anything else from these red shirts out here, these
Yep.
nameless, unnamed crewmen out here?
Yep.
But then the Cardinals, kind of the same thing. I mean, in terms of just having a really bad roster in
Yep.
terms of depth and just overall. But the Rams have Sean McVay. The Cardinals do not. So that's where that one comes down to.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's how I have the West turning out and pretty much the why I have it turning out that way. What do you have?
I have the exact same order. I'm not even gonna
Yeah.
pretend like there's another way of looking at this division. You're absolutely right as far as what separates the Cardinals and the Rams. It's coaching. It's not even close. I don't
Mhm.
like Jonathan Gannon very much as a head coaching
And
candidate. I didn't even like him that much as a coordinator. I thought the roster was just fantastic, and it's really impossible to fail as a coordinator when your defense is that good, top to bottom. And
Mhm.
of course, Sean McVay. I mean, he's proved it. Sean McVay's awesome. Sean McVay is
Yeah,
one of the better coaches in the league. And
for
even if
sure.
the roster is not great, he's going to elevate it. He's a creative play caller. He's a creative play designer. He's fantastic. There's not much to say about Sean McVay.
For sure.
Interesting. He almost retired this last offseason though, which is interesting.
Yeah, I'm like I never know what's going on with
Yeah,
that
the
because I
offensive
mean, he
coordinator
would
went back
be.
to Kentucky this year, which unfortunately for Will Levis, he didn't have his coordinator last year of his college career, and he looked
Will
not great.
Levis, who
But
knows, might have gone first
uh,
round if that was the
yeah,
case.
but he's so they lost their offensive coordinator, who's now back at Kentucky, and I think some other coaches left too, because he had an open invitation to basically, hey, I don't know if I'm gonna be here next year, so I'm gonna let y'all know now. Hey, everybody, get out if you want to get out, and stay if you want to stay. But
Mhm.
yeah, and of course, I mean, I should have started from the top. San Francisco definitely wins this division. I think
Well,
they get the
that one
number
you can
one
just kind of
seed. They
not
get the
even
number one
mention
seed in
because
the
of
conference, I think. Which also, I just drafted CMC last night. I had the third pick, so
I have him in my ESPN fantasy league as well.
wonderful.
He fell to me at 6.
Yeah. Oh, 6.
Don't know how it happened.
That's
I'm trying to think how
insane.
it happened. It happened. Jefferson obviously went. I know Kelsey went right at 5, and
Interesting.
then guessing Chase. I'm guessing Eckler. Oh, I feel like Cup went
Interesting.
ahead. Which
That
like
is a boomer
before
bust
the
pick
day to day
right
stuff
there.
came
Yeah.
out, I didn't hate. I didn't hate the pick before the day to day stuff came out because I was like, hey,
Yep.
he's healthy. I think he was. I think he had the most points per game last year. So like, hey, that's valid. But then the day to day
Or
stuff came out, and I was like, ooh,
yeah, he was a fantasy
wouldn't do that.
monster in 2021. I mean, he had the triple crown as a wide
Yeah.
receiver. He was phenomenal. But yeah, San Francisco, like you said, arguably the best roster in the league. And then at quarterback, I mean, Brock Purdy has shown he can at least be a point guard for this team, if nothing else. And he knows the system. He can run the system. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best running backs in the league. I mean, I struggle to call him a running back because he adds so much to the team in terms of catching the football. But
Yeah, and apparently throwing.
just as a emergency quarterback, Christian
His
McCaffrey.
first full game as a Niner was insane.
Oh, yeah, he did throw a touchdown pass in that game.
The pass. That's the one where he had passing, rushing, and throwing. I just did. That's a
Get
passing play.
yourself a man that
Passing,
can
rushing, receiving.
get yourself a man that can do all three.
Yeah.
But Yeah, they're awesome. Defense is great. I mean, who knows? They might struggle to replace D'Amico Ryans, but these guys pump out coordinators like it's nothing on the defensive side of the ball because Robert Saleh
Hmm.
was there before D'Amico was. So I think
Yeah,
they'll be just fine.
well, probably.
They've had no issue replacing defensive coordinators in the
With Nick
past.
Bosa, I mean, how do you look bad?
Well, that's another contract scenario though, which they're much closer to getting one done than the Chiefs are to Chris Jones, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I would
Which
not be
is
surprised. Chris Jones is not a guy you trade away, but you're the Chiefs, and I've seen you not care.
you hand that man a blank check. I don't care what he
For real.
wants. You
Especially
hand
because
that man a blank check.
they need to be handing blank checks to defensive players more than offensive players. You've got Andy Reid and Mahomes. You stay good there no matter what.
Yes, Patrick
Hand your
Mahomes
blank
is gonna
checks around
make
on
it work.
defense.
Make it work no matter who he has in front of him. There's only so
Mm.
much, like especially at the interior defensive line position. There are maybe 8 teams in the league that have a real difference maker on the interior defensive line. It is hard to
8, it
be
might be generous. I'm trying to think.
Jeffrey Simmons, Quinnen Williams, Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, Sexy Dexy, Jonathan Allen at 6. I'm sure there's somebody we're forgetting.
That's 6, and
Christian
what's your definition of
Wilkins,
difference
Christian Wilkins.
maker?
I mean, like a defensive tackle that really affects the game, like an edge rusher, like an elite edge rusher can. Because there are certainly more
Okay.
elite edge rushers in the game than there are
Yeah, no, for sure.
elite. So like, it's hard to play on the inside because you're facing 2 guys, sometimes 3 every single play, no matter what.
Yes, I am.
Oh, brother. All right, but
Any other notes on the other West teams?
I like similar to what you said. I think Geno Smith is what he is now. I don't think that's
Yeah.
a flash in the pan. I think some of the throws he made last year, you just don't do that if you're not a good quarterback. You don't
That
fit
and
the windows Geno Smith was fitting into, especially
yeah,
in the first month and a half or so last season. He did
the
cool
faith
off
he has
just
in
a
those
little bit.
receivers
The
to
chemistry
throw
with
some of
those
those.
guys, yeah. Well, that's another thing. You have to have some cojones on you if you're even attempting the passes that Geno Smith did
Which
last
makes
year.
sense because Geno's like, I've been around this league. Like, if I
Well,
don't,
he's
I
got
gotta
nothing to
take these
lose.
chances here
He's
if I
got
want to
nothing
stand
to
out.
lose. He had to play well last year, or he was not. Like that. That's your shot right there. Team trades away Russell Wilson. They say, "Hey, we believe in you. Go out there and prove it." And that's exactly what he did, and I think he got rewarded for it. And I'm glad they didn't draft a quarterback because there was some nonsense about them drafting Hendon Hooker in the first round, which would have been
Jesus.
insane. So I'm glad they didn't end up doing that.
Yeah.
But
So,
that's
are you ready to move on to
yeah.
the AFC?
Yep.
You want to start us off with the AFC North here?
Yes, sir. So, taking a look at the AFC North, I know you and I are going to differ on this one, and because
Yeah,
I know you
it's-
would never.
I feel like we've had this conversation before.
Well, maybe just maybe we've recorded this once already and had some technical difficulties, and now we're actually recording this 2 days after the initial recording session. But I'm still wearing the same jersey. But
Possibly, and my guess is that this actually is probably a good thing in disguise. The video is going to look a lot better.
I think so too. I think my lighting has certainly been better. The Florida
Lighting's
sun
better.
has
I think
been very.
I think we're flowing a little better.
The Florida sun's been very nice to me today. It's come through pretty well. So,
yeah.
With that being said, I know even of course even going to the last session, I knew that you would never
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
against
yeah.
your glorious king Joe Burrow, and I understand. I unfortunately am picking against our glorious king Joe Burrow because I have the Pittsburgh Steelers winning this division this year. Not by much, mind you. I think they finish one game ahead of both Cincinnati and Baltimore. I think Pittsburgh goes 12-5. Cincinnati and Baltimore go 11-6.
Okay.
And
how do you have that?
Baltimore number 2, Cincinnati number 3, but that's semantics. There's some kind of tiebreaker in there.
The last place being Cleveland Browns.
There are 2 people in all of football that I root against, that I actively hope for them to not succeed. That is Brian Kelly, who just got his ass whooped last night, and it's Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson should not be playing football, and
especially for the amount of money he's playing football for. That was the craziest part to me.
Yes. You don't give a guy a fully guaranteed contract after you find out he's the horniest man in the league. That's just not something you should do.
Because it's like, okay, he got acquitted or whatever.
Well,
right?
No, he didn't get
trial.
Well, I don't think there was a criminal trial. I think he just settled a bunch of civil cases. And I understand settlement is not necessarily an admission of guilt, but 27 women, all with virtually the same story, and there were some very detailed accounts of what he did.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
To me,
painting a picture in the court documents of exactly what he did. I feel pretty strongly that he probably did do it.
I guess if we're gonna address it, since nothing
Yeah.
criminal was like taken up on him and he
Mhm.
wasn't found guilty, I feel like
Yes.
maybe it shouldn't ruin his life to that
No, I
degree. He
understand
should
why
still
he's
have
in the
his
league.
job.
I certainly don't think the NFL should have banned him because it's hard to
Yeah,
it's you just
but
can't,
personally,
unfortunately. But on a
yeah,
personal level, I'm going to root
personal
against him
level, I
every
root
week
against him,
because I feel
100%.
very strongly that he did do it. So from a personal
Yeah.
standpoint, I hope he plays like he did last year. I hope he
So my
keeps
personal
throwing bad
standpoint is he
interceptions.
should be playing.
Yes.
He should be allowed to play, but I'm gonna root against him.
Yes, he should be allowed to play, but I hope he plays like shit.
And
Is how I
but
feel.
even with all of that, due to the drama, it is still insane to me the contract he got.
The
That was
fully
crazy.
guaranteed, what is it, 250 million? Fully
230, I
guaranteed?
feel like
Or something like that, but it was a lot of money. Like 40,
a lot of
45
money
million a
guaranteed.
year, fully guaranteed for 5 years. Insane.
Yeah,
Absolutely insane.
and
But
he's looking like doo doo.
yeah, I hope he continues to look like doo doo. In fact,
So
start
let's hope that
DTR.
continues.
Start DTR. DTR is awesome. Start DTR.
Plus, I have Nick Chubb. So if
Best
he could be
back in the
bad, so
league,
they
by the way.
have to hand it to him a lot.
The one nice thing I
I have
will say.
McCaffrey and Chubb in one league. I got that
Yep.
duo.
I think Nick Chubb is the best running back in the NFL. How did you get Nick Chubb and
Dude, I
CMC?
don't. I was
Who
watching him, and
you're
he's
playing
not
with
the only
bots right now in your fantasy
dude.
league. There's no
That
way.
happened, and I was watching another league where I know Joe Mixon got taken ahead of Chubb, and
What?
forgot who else got taken ahead of him. But I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And then like, because some guy, I think, because the guy in that league also was able to get CMC and Chubb, because he drafted McCaffrey at like 2. He was on auto draft and he got McCaffrey and Chubb.
Yeah, I got
He's like,
McCaffrey
what the
at
fuck are you guys
3,
doing?
and I did the next best thing. In round 2. I don't even remember who I drafted. I drafted a receiver. I
Here,
think.
I'm gonna be right back. My
But
sister's heading out. I'll be
all
right
right,
back.
I'll see you in
Just one
just a
second.
second. All right, we're back.
Okay.
Yeah, let's resume. We were talking about some idiot taking Joe Mixon over Nick Chubb, I think.
But yeah, so I guess, should I just go into my ranking?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I had a couple more notes about Cleveland and why I think
No,
they're
you go
the
ahead.
worst. I mean, I love Nick Chubb. I love Myles Garrett. I think Myles Garrett's certainly top 2. He might even be my pick for the best edge rusher in the league. It's hard to say T.J. Watt isn't number 1 right now, but I mean, it's a toss-up. It's a coin flip for me. And also, I don't think Kevin Stefanski is very good at his job. And I think we will see him on the chopping block, I think, after this year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, sorry.
Any other notes on the teams? Other teams?
I mean, I guess
Okay.
I think Pittsburgh's great defensively. Kenny Pickett's got to play point guard. They're going to be like the 49ers of the AFC. They're not necessarily to the same degree. They won't be quite as good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. So for the AFC North, what's going on? Okay. Why are you picking against this man? Okay. This man right here. Name another quarterback that's not Tom Brady that can go into Arrowhead and beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Name one more, please. Oh, you can't? That's because this is the man to do it.
Ryan Tannehill almost did it one time. Not really.
Oh, we're talking almost?
Not really almost, in fact, but it was I was really hoping we would do it.
I'm talking results. Okay? And I'm going with Joe Burrow. Number 1 in the division. Number 1 in the conference, the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 2 in the division, Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, sir.
3rd, the Steelers. I agree with what you said about the Steelers, but I'm picking star quarterbacks above Kenny Pickett. And number 4, last place, the Doo-Doo Browns.
The Doo-Doo Browns.
Ow. The Bengals, I mean, one of, if not the best wide receiver duo. Maybe I probably would have Waddle and Hill above them, but I'd probably put them 2nd place, right up there with them.
You just reminded me, I drafted T. Higgins in round 2 last night because everyone else was gone.
Oof.
I had to take T. Higgins round 2. And then, like, round 3, I don't remember who I got, but I drafted another wide receiver. But I had to take T. Higgins round 2 because nobody was there. Like,
yeah.
It was clean. Because I had the 3rd pick, so by the time it got back to me, it was a clean house. All the best players were gone.
So there.
I love T
The
Higgins though.
Ravens, I think this is maybe the best receiving core that Lamar Jackson's had to work with.
Easily, he is not even
Yeah.
close. Not even close.
Um, Now some of it is potential. Like we're betting on some of the upside of like Odell being more Odell. Maybe not quite New York Odell, but maybe Rams Odell.
You're betting on all three
Uh,
wide receivers, actually. You're betting on
well,
Odell's
yeah, I'm
health
going
and
through them.
ability. Oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, I was gonna go through
Sorry, I'm
them.
gonna let you finish.
It's like them. We know what Mark Andrews is going to be. That's the one that you can always consistently rely on.
Death
Um,
taxes and Mark Andrews. Yep,
Zay
that's for
Flowers.
sure.
You're betting on a rookie, so there's always a little bit of a gamble there. I bet he'll be good. The problem is he's smaller.
Yeah, fair enough.
Um, Rashad Bateman. Are you betting on him to make a progression? I bet he's better, but
I'm not out on him. He just needs to be healthy. We need to see
yeah,
health from Odell. We need to see health from Rashad Bateman, and we need to see, which I think we will see from Zay Flowers, good football play. He'll have 700-800 yards or whatever. I think he'll have a nice rookie season. But you're betting on all
and
three of those guys, really.
yeah, and then for the Steelers, T.J. Watt is healthy the whole year. That defense is going to be elite. And I think that you have Kenny Pickett playing point guard, but I think playing point guard to Deontay Johnson and George Pickens isn't to the level of throwing to Higgins or Chase.
Absolutely. I mean,
But
that's not even arguable.
I still think they have a really good. I think they do have a good season. I think they fight for the final wild card slot, but it's just tough out in the AFC.
Yeah.
So I got them third. And the Browns, Deshaun Watson with his contract depleting making that team not able to have as much talent around him. You have top tier talent in Nick Chubb and in Myles Garrett, but you have Deshaun Watson as your quarterback. I'm going to pick you last. I couldn't even in fantasy. I was like, I don't know if I can, in good conscience, have this man be my quarterback in fantasy.
Yeah.
Not just because of his skill, but just because of who he is.
Yeah. I think I had him last year just because, I had Aaron Rodgers, and then I think I drafted Deshaun Watson in the very last round just so that I'd have a backup that I thought would be pretty good because Rodgers had a late bye last year. It was like week 13 or whatever because I think most NFC North teams have a week 13 bye again this year. But the thought process was like, all right, play Rodgers all season long, and during the bye, put in Deshaun Watson. He'll be back by then. So
My gamble is I have, let's see, for the league I care the most about, let me see what my quarterback situation is because I think I have Lamar Jackson as my starter. So I really am betting on him having a good year.
Yep.
And then Anthony Richardson is my backup. I think my gamble is that he
Richardson's my
blooms
starter.
into what. Yeah, I saw.
Well, Kenny Pickett's my insurance though, so I've got point guard insurance there. I think Pickett will.
But
be
I think my
stable
gamble is that hoping
no
that Anthony Richardson is what he is, and I could trade one of my quarterbacks to improve.
Yeah.
My probably running back spot is probably what I need to improve, but we'll see. But yeah, that's how I got the AFC North going down. You want to move on to the East?
Yeah, I was just gonna say similarly to the NFC North, I think this is a pretty tough division to predict because the three teams at the top are all similar to each other in terms of how things could shape up. Yeah, these are all funny though. I think it's tough because there's easily at least 10 playoff caliber teams in this conference, and 3 of them are gonna have to miss out. And all 3 of those teams, I feel like, would be a lock to make it if they were in the NFC. So it's just a tough conference in general to predict playoff seeding because there's 10 teams in this conference that would win the NFC South, no question.
I just counted. I did name 10 AFC teams I think are playoff caliber.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this morning. I was texting some friends and I named 10 teams successfully. I'm like, there's just you're gonna have to keep 3 of them out, and it sucks. It's just bad beat. But
and one of them is going to be the Titans that have to just be kept out.
No. Well, we'll get to that later. All right. AFC East is where we are right now, right?
Yeah.
This also used to be the least at one point. It was New England in the field, and everybody else sucked, and New England was winning Super Bowls. And now it's New England, the field versus New England. They are my 4th, definitely, but not a super distant 4th. I just think they have the least talent in the division here.
Yeah.
I think Buffalo is still my pick for number 1, and I think Miami's number 2, and I think Miami has a good chance of winning the top spot in this division. And my only hang-up with the Jets for number 3 is just the offensive coaching staff. We all know the dumpster fire that was Nathaniel Hackett last year in Denver, and I think he's better suited to being a coordinator than a head coach, but it's not like he's ever been an elite coordinator. And then You have Todd Downing as your passing game coordinator, who was a terrible offensive coordinator for both the Raiders and the Titans, and got a DUI last year. And then you have Keith Carter coaching the offensive line, who has not only had bad offensive lines in Tennessee, at least in terms of pass protection, but has also gotten his offensive linemen injured by just being a stingy asshole and not giving veterans, like extra care and giving them more time to recover. He treated them the same way he treated the young guys, and that's why Ben Jones was hurt so much last year. And that's why Taylor Lewan kept getting hurt, and Taylor Lewan even called him Adolph Carter a few weeks ago, because that's who he is. So this is a nightmare of an offensive coaching staff, at least on paper. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they all end up coaching much better than they have previously, and this offense is phenomenal. I still think it'll be fine. I mean, there's only so much bad coaching can do to Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson as a duo. I think that's going to work.
Yeah.
No matter what. Aaron Rodgers loves wide receivers with the number 17. This is going to work. But and the defense, there's not much to be said there. Robert Saleh is good at what he does. It's the best secondary in the league. It's a very deep group of edge rushers. It's not a very deep group of interior guys, but you have a lot of flexible pieces that can play the interior. And Quinnen Williams is a dog. So the Jets, it's another team that's tough to predict because, do I really have the Jets missing the playoffs? I don't want to, because they would easily make the playoffs in the NFC. But this conference is just different, unfortunately. And then New England, I don't hate Mac Jones. I just think he's never going to be, there's too many Ferraris in the AFC, and Mac Jones is like a Prius. He's fine, but what are you put a Prius next to a Ferrari in a drag race. It's winning that race. It's the Ferrari every time. You're never going to get as much from Mac Jones as you're going to get
unless
from
the Ferrari blows its tire out.
Yes, precisely. And
a little health analogy.
Yeah, well, unless the Ferrari is Lamar Jackson.
And he needs like 2 Ferraris, one. I don't know what you would call Tua. He's like in between.
Tua's not.
But Mac Jones needs 2 Ferraris to blow a tire out, and then
Tua's borderline top 10, I think, from what we saw from him last year. We just need more health from Tua. And
he's top.
From top to bottom, we need more health from Tua because he's been hurt.
He's top 15. He's top 16. He's definitely top half.
Well, for sure, but I think he's top 12 as well. Well, I think the biggest issue with him is his health when he's on.
That might be a different video for another day.
That might be. We should do a quarterback debate sometime this week.
We can do that.
We should do that.
Quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think that's.
Here's a little preview for the next video that we do together.
There we go. Next collab is coming soon. But I mean, that's overall my thoughts on this division. It's Buffalo, Miami, the Jets, New England, and the top 3 are not too distant from one another. Like I said, the hang up on the Jets is the offensive coaching, and for New England, Bill O'Brien has proven to be good when he's in New England. I don't know how that'll be this year, but he's certainly better than what they had last year. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, apparently his knee is a mess from the report I just read.
Okay, yeah, I literally had that tweet pulled up that report. Yeah. So Dove Kleiman tweeted this out. And, new Patriots wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster's knee could explode at any point and is a mess, according to Albert Breer.
Juju said his knee is getting better every day, which, I mean, of course he's not going to get up there and say, it's about to fall off any second now, but, a grain of salt both ways. We'll see. And
it's already a problem that Juju is
your wide receiver.
New England's one. Because that's a problem by itself, and he's hurt. That's not good.
Granted, they've done well with slot receivers being their one in the past, but that was with Tom Brady. Mac Jones is not Tom Brady. As much as everybody wanted to say he was after his rookie year. Oh, we got the next. No, you didn't. So
you got the next at his best, Kirk Cousins, which is a good quarterback. At his, that's his ceiling.
I don't even think he'll ever be as good as Kirk is right now. He could be.
I doubt it too.
He could be, but I
think that's a more realistic ceiling.
Yes, I would agree with you there. That's probably his ceiling.
But yeah,
which is why Kyle Shanahan wanted him, because Kyle Shanahan wanted Kirk Cousins. He missed out. Then he wanted to draft Mac Jones, and then John Lynch drafted Trey Lance. But that's also a different video.
All right, so from my AFC East, I got it going. Buffalo Bills at 1, the New York Jets at 2, the Dolphins at 3, and then the Patriots at 4. Bills, I don't think much needs to be said. One of the best coaching staffs in the NFL, one of the best quarterbacks, who has, at least on the field, I don't know what's going on off the field, but on the field, one of the best chemistries with his top wide receiver
Well, Stephon
in
Diggs said that
Stephon
was all
Diggs.
BS.
I believe it was BS, but there was a
Yeah.
lot that came out. So I'm always a little worried,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I've
apparently he was
I've
a
seen
sore
them.
loser after the last playoff game or something. He was
Yeah, I
pissed
don't know why
about.
they were. I don't know. People were expecting him to be okay with losing in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
because it's been 3 years in a row now.
Yeah,
You're
so
gonna
I
want to
think
get
they're
over the hump
fine.
eventually.
I think they're fine. Von Miller, pending his health, but that defense is going to be good regardless. It's just a
Yeah.
question of how good.
Greg
And
Rousseau
then
is my guy.
the
Love Greg Rousseau.
Jets, I think that defense is going to be the defense is. I think will carry it through maybe some offensive learning curve in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
At least carry them enough to make the playoffs. As the offense starts to click towards the end of the season and
That's fair.
they make some noise in the playoffs. Little preview of what might be going down in my playoff prediction. Whoa.
Ooh.
Third, I have the Dolphins. I trust the wide receivers a lot. I trust the offense pretty much, and then the defense. With Jalen Ramsey's injury, I think that the defense won't be as good as it needs to be to compete in the AFC. If they were the NFC, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
They would be going in no matter what. But they're in the AFC, so I got them finishing third in their
Yeah.
division, and then last place, the Patriots. I can only put so much faith in Bill Belichick being Bill Belichick, especially with these last couple seasons, making a defensive coordinator the offensive coordinator, some other questionable
Yeah.
decisions. Part of the reason he gets a pass for being as a GM is because of how good he is as a coach. But his GM tenure is a lot more questionable than maybe some people realize with him
He's
drafting.
never been an elite general manager.
Yeah,
He's always been an
but
elite head coach, but the general
yeah,
manager, he's
Ali
always
head
left
coach,
something
all
to be
time head
desired.
coach, but um, it's starting to look bleak in New England.
Yeah, I think bleak is not a not too harsh of a word there because it feels like I don't want to say the game's passed him by, but I mean I think ultimately with defensive head coaches in the NFL in general, there's starting to become a little bit of a ceiling with defensive
Yeah,
head coaches because the league is gearing more towards being tailored towards offenses and offensive head coaches. If you have an offensive head coach, you have the same play caller every year, or at least the same offense, because sometimes
yeah.
coordinators call plays. But
I just think if you're going to be a
yeah,
defensive head coach, I mean, this is true for the league pretty much regardless,
yeah,
but especially if it's a defensive head coach, you have to have a star quarterback
yeah,
that the Patriots just do not have. Because if you have a star quarter, if you had Patrick Mahomes, it wouldn't matter the offense because
yeah,
then you can be the defensive head coach, dial in on defense,
yeah,
know that Mahomes is going to carry you, and just have a defense to shut down everyone else.
yeah.
But they don't have any. They don't have a star quarterback. They said we can do it with a Tom Brady clone that it just ended up having some deformities in the cloning process and it's just not as good.
Yep.
That's how I've got that division shaping out.
Well, also you have to have a new offensive coordinator every year or two. Even if you find
Mm,
good ones, then they're going to be gone within 2 years
yep,
because they're good at their job, and somebody's going to want them coaching their football team.
yep,
So even if you are an elite defensive coach and you get a very good offensive coordinator for your offense, you're going to have to replace him very often. So you're
yeah.
limited. You have
The
you have a
only
small
team
window.
that's pulling that off is the Bills. They have Josh Allen,
Yeah, but even then,
and I know that he got pulled up because of a coordinator, but
Sean McDermott's more
he,
of a CEO than he is a
yeah,
truly a defensive minded head coach. He's like a
true.
Mike Tomlin, Mike Vrabel kind of guy, rather than like
Yeah,
a
that's
Bill
if
Belichick.
if you have a defensive head coach, that is the style you have to have.
I agree. I think the CEO is well. Another thing is what the NFL is gearing towards is you're getting more guys that are not necessarily hands on either side of the ball, but they're more of a operational like, and then building a culture kind of thing is
Mm,
is what is what
yeah,
you're seeing a lot of, and I think it's
yeah,
working. But
yeah. Agreed. You want to move on to the South? I feel like you might have some things to say.
oh, brother, I got some things to
Now, I'm gonna
say.
ask you now.
Okay.
Go off, but don't go off maybe as long.
I didn't plan on it because I think I spent about 10 minutes last time, and I don't need to spend that much time. So I'll make the same points again, but I'll be short and sweet. So This really comes down to health with Tennessee. I don't think there's any denying that because they've had the most
Huh?
injured team in the league the past 2 seasons. It worked in
Sure.
2021 because the injuries weren't necessarily at key positions. However, last year, pass rusher, quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line, left tackle specifically, everywhere it fell apart. At all the key positions, they did not have CB1 as well. Christian Fulton missed a lot of time. Every key position dealt with major injuries last year. And no team can win games like that. They started out 7-3. The injuries caught up with them. They lost 10 straight. They were 5 games ahead of Jacksonville last year at one point, but they lost 7 straight football games. And Jacksonville went on a run. And to their credit, Doug Peterson rallied the troops, took them away. Last game of the season, they beat Tennessee. They win the division. Jacksonville was also the healthiest team in the league last year. If you round it out just a little bit, if Tennessee's healthier this year, Jacksonville's probably not going to be quite as healthy because it's very rare you're that healthy 2 years in a row where you don't have hardly any injuries at key positions. And it's very rare that you have all injuries at all key positions 2 years in a row. If you round out the health for both teams and take into account that now we have a DeAndre Hopkins that we didn't have last year, the offensive line on paper looks better. It's still one of the worst in the league, but it's still going to be better than what we had last year. And the defense should be better because now you have health. Jeffrey Simmons' ankle is healthy. Harold Landry looked healthy in that preseason game. Christian Fulton looks healthy, and he's been balling in camp so far. And you add players like Sean Murphy-Bunting and Azeez Al-Shaair. I think Tennessee is going to be really, really good this year. I think Tyjae Spears is the best compliment Derrick Henry has ever had in his career. They've tried for years. They drafted Darrington Evans. They drafted Hassan Haskins. They both got cut. I think Tennessee ultimately is much improved. I think as long as they are healthy, they're going to win this division. Jacksonville is going to be number 2, and they are going to compete strongly for the division. And look, I drafted Calvin Ridley last night. I love Calvin Ridley. I think Ridley's
Have
going
them
to be
too.
awesome. Ridley's amazing. And Christian Kirk, as good as he was last year, he's better served as a wide receiver too because I think he is a high end too. I don't think he's a 1. I think Ridley
No.
is a middle tier wide receiver 1. I don't think he's a low end 1. I think he's better than that. I think Kirk is somewhere between a low end 1 and because really a low end 1 and a high end 2 are the same thing. Because if you're a low end 1, I don't want you to be my 1. That's how I've always felt about it, anyways. So, but I
Mhm.
think Kirk's a high end number 2. Do they still have Zay Jones? They got somebody. I'm sure they got somebody.
No.
Maybe he's a Lion right now, isn't he? Or where did he go? Where did
Is
Zay Jones
he
go?
is he a Falcon?
No, the Falcons have Mac Hollins and Scotty Miller.
That's okay. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Let me see. Zay Jones. Is he still there?
I think I think he is still there then.
Yes, he is still there. Okay. I don't know why I thought he went somewhere.
Perfect.
It was Marvin Jones went back to the Lions. That's who I was thinking of. Big body,
Oh,
physical
okay.
guy that went to Detroit from Jacksonville. It was Marvin Jones. He's back in Jacksonville. There's a guy named Jones. Last name Jones went from Jacksonville to Detroit. It wasn't Zay. It was Marvin. So Zay Jones, I think, is a perfectly good wide receiver 3. I think what he gives you a big body pass catcher. You have 2 deep threats now with Ridley and Kirk. I think you're going to be just fine. Evan Ingram, never been much of a blocker, but his hands got better last year. They still weren't perfect. He had a couple of key drops, but
Yeah.
Ingram finally learned how to mostly consistently catch the ball. And he gives you an option to like flex inside to the slot or whatever. So
Hmm.
you have options there on offense. Trevor Lawrence is awesome. We could see sometimes you get third-year slumps from quarterbacks that break out in their second year rather than like a sophomore slump from good rookie seasons. Sometimes you get that. Maybe that's what we see. I don't think so, but Doug Peterson's good at his job. What this boils down to for me is the defense still needs a lot of work. I don't think they did enough
Hmm.
this offseason to beef up really everything. I think the linebacker room, I think it'll develop. I like Devin Lloyd a lot, but he had a very up and down rookie year. I think I want to see him do better because I love Devin Lloyd. I hate that he went to Jacksonville, but loved him coming out. I think the secondary needs work. I think Tyson Campbell's a great CB1. I think the safeties are coming along, but really the development of the defensive line is what this hinders on for me. Is Trayvon Walker taking the step in year 2? Does Josh Allen finally have the elite season that I think is in him? That what he was drafted to be, he was like the 6th, 7th overall pick, and he's always had the potential to be a high end edge 1, but he's always been more of a low end edge 1. Maybe we finally see better from him. I don't know, but I still think
Hmm.
they need some work before they are ready to compete for a Super Bowl. But with that being said, coaching certainly raises the floor. This is not going to be a bad team, and the offense is going to be
Okay.
really good.
You
Now,
got Jags Titans.
yes, well, no, Titans, Jags.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry. I'm
yeah,
reading my notes.
Indianapolis, number 3. I think they're a year away, but I think ultimately Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson will work sometime in the
Hey,
future.
for the sake of fantasy, let's hope.
We're both hoping for Anthony Richardson's success this year.
Yes,
Um,
we are.
just not against the Titans though, but against Jacksonville and
Speak for
against
yourself.
Houston, sure. And then of course Houston at the bottom. I like D'Amico Ryans a lot. I wasn't the
Hmm.
biggest CJ Stroud guy, but I think he could also round out into being a point guard, more or less, for an offense. And Dalton Schultz should give him a decent security blanket. Um,
Coltsy.
yes, and Tank Dell as well. I should give him a good weapon in the slot. So you have a tight
And
end
then
who can
is
keep.
Mechie?
Mechie's healthy. Mechie is no longer dealing with cancer, thank goodness. So
Amen.
Mechie's good. I like Mechie. Hopefully we see good play from Mechie this year. Hopefully his knee is healthy. Because he did tear his ACL before he had cancer. So that was, or
Did
he
his ACL tear cause him to go to the hospital and find his cancer?
see that I wouldn't know because I don't know why they would scan for. Maybe
I don't know what type of
who
cancer
knows?
he had.
Who knows? I don't remember, to be honest with you. But either way, he's had plenty of time for his knee to heal because usually it takes a year anyways. Well, he had that year off because he was battling cancer. So his knee probably should be healthy. I think we're going to have a lot more fun watching Houston this year than we have the last few years, where they've just been signing
Yeah.
whatever free agent would come and with a chip on his shoulder and occasionally give a good play or whatever. I think the defense will have energy this year that they haven't had because that's D'Amico Ryans is similar to Robert Saleh in terms of kind of what he does to motivate his defense. I think not maybe not necessarily he doesn't have the same fiery personality that Saleh has, but Ryans should do a lot. I think for that
He'll boost
defense.
him up.
Will Anderson's gonna have a really nice season. Definitely a defensive rookie of the year candidate. I think we see another step up from guys like Jalen Petrie and Derek Stingley this year as well. Though again, they're missing pieces in the secondary and they're missing pieces on the defensive line, especially in the interior. And I think they're missing pieces at linebacker. I think Christian Harris has a better year this year, but they're definitely a year or two away from making any kind of noise. I think they could be fun though. This could be a fun team. But yeah, that's my
Okay.
AFC South thoughts.
All right. My AFC South, this is going to be what actually happens. I got the Jacksonville Jaguars finishing first in the division, Titans second, Colts third, Texans fourth. I think Jags, tale of two halves of the season,
Absolutely.
end of a playoff game. I think we get more second half Trevor Lawrence than we do first half, and he's cements himself as a top 7 quarterback in the NFL, is what I'm going to call.
He's already top
And when you
10,
have,
so it wouldn't take much.
yeah, yeah. But when you have a top 7 quarterback in the NFL and you don't have a top 16 quarterback in your division fighting against you, I don't see how you
Yo, hold
don't
on
win your
now.
division.
Hold on now. Saying Ryan Tannehill isn't top 16 is insane. Insane.
Uh,
Insane.
I mean, I guess I don't know, but I bet if I
He's
look
top
through, I bet I could.
16. I'm not saying he's top 12. He's top 16 though, especially when he has 2 good wide receivers. The last time Ryan Tannehill had 2 good wide receivers, he had 40 touchdowns. All right, let's not play games here. Ryan
All right, so I
Tannehill,
got the Jags first, the
yes,
Titans second. The Titans, I do like. I mean, I love the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. If they're healthy, I mean, especially on defense, that will definitely cause some great change than what they were last year.
right.
The Colts, I mean, for the Colts and Texans, it's just who has a better rookie season, and I think I just feel like with Anthony Richardson's rushing ability, he'll be able to benefit the offense. Maybe he's not playing quarterback necessarily better than CJ Stroud, but benefit the offense sooner than CJ Stroud would. So I have the Colts finishing ahead of the Texans. And the Texans, we see signs of hope, but they still
Finally,
finish last in the
finally,
division.
after 3 years now of rebuilding, we finally, I think
Yeah,
we'll see
we get to
signs
see a
of,
direction.
yes, there's going to be a
So
sense of identity that this team
yeah,
hasn't had,
so
and I
that's what
think
I
that's
have
what's important.
the AFC South finishing, and that's what it will finish as.
All right, brother. Well, I agree with your
All
bottom
right,
2 at the very least. But
yeah,
moving on, we've got the West.
the
This is
West.
our last division of the session here.
Yep.
No ands, ifs, or buts about it. It's Kansas City's division until somebody says otherwise. And
Agree.
that's yet to happen, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think Patrick Mahomes is the best in the league right now. And again,
Agreed.
that stands until it's proved otherwise by somebody else, maybe Joe Burrow.
I think it
And
will get proved, but right now it
but
is him.
for the current moment, it's him. And look, the wide receiver room, a lot of question marks. You've got MVS, you've got Kadarius Toney, you've got Sky Moore, you got Rasheed Rice, and you got Richie James. Um, you got a bunch of dudes in that room. I don't know if any of them are really any
I
good, but you
can't
got a
argue
bunch of
against that. There
dudes.
are dudes in there.
You have football play, and Justin Ross is in there too. We'll see what he does this year, but um, you got guys.
Justin Ross.
Justin Ross. Yeah, Justin Ross is on. It made the roster.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Justin Ross? Do you remember him from Clemson a few
Uh.
years back? He had almost had like a career-ending neck injury in college.
Oh.
He's the
Okay.
big
Okay.
he was like a first-round talent before that neck injury.
No. Okay. I
So
know who you're talking about. I
okay,
got confused with a different Ross, who I was
okay.
like, that guy retired.
Oh, John Ross? Did he retire?
Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause I think he was in Kansas City.
was he?
Yeah.
I don't remember where he
I
went after the
think.
Giants. I know he was on the Giants for a bit. I don't remember where he went afterwards. But
Yeah. Didn't do
Travis
anything there
Kelsey's still
either.
here, and Travis Kelsey is awesome. Nobody finds
Yeah.
holes in the zone better than Travis
When
Kelsey.
we. Yeah. I guess I'll
Yeah.
save my
Nobody
piece.
nobody in the league can find the soft spot in zone coverage as well as Travis Kelsey can. He knows exactly where to sit between two defenders, and he will often get much further up the field than those two defenders. He will break
That former
tackles after the
quarterback
fact.
brain.
Yeah, he will break tackles and keep going. And he's fantastic. Nothing much to be said about Kelsey. He's the best in the league as well.
Yeah. So you got Chiefs at
Defensively,
1. Of
well, this Chris Jones news is getting scarier by the day as far as defense goes.
course.
But to their credit, I mean they've maintained steady defensive play
What
this
if a
last.
trade broke out while we were doing this?
Oh brother, let me refresh the. I was gonna say the Bird app, but that's not what it is. Twitter. Let me hop on Twitter, look up Chris Jones, see if there's been any news today.
I bet he's been in some news, but just nothing like just repeat of old news.
No, there's no no Chris Jones news other than that he's still not in the building today, which is not
All
really
right.
news because we kind of figured that much. But number
So
two is the
Chiefs at 1.
Chargers. Yeah, Chargers
Chargers.
definitely number two. I think there's a pretty clear gap between the two teams in this division and then the next two. Well, on
Agreed.
paper, maybe Denver does something with Sean Payton. Maybe he fixes Russ. Maybe Russ is no longer cooked, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But the Chargers definitely my number two, and it's definitely put up or shut up time for Brandon Staley. They not only need to
Mm-hmm.
make the playoffs again, they need to win a playoff game. I can't ask them to win the division. It's not really fair for that to be your expectation when Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are coaching a team in your division. But you
Sure.
have to win a playoff game this year. You have to, because this roster is too good for you to disappoint as much as you have the last two seasons.
Yeah.
Joey Bosa is the second best Bosa in the league, but he's still very good at what he does. Khalil
Right.
Mack is probably going to be on a pitch count this year, just in general. He's going to be. I'm sure he'll rotate in and out, but
Yeah.
Khalil Mack's still got some juice in him. He's not
Some.
cooked. Yeah, he'll be a good
It's
piece.
just he's just role player instead of star player.
You want to see more
A
from
damn good
J.C.
role player.
Jackson this year, but you want to see health, and then you want to see him not play like boiled ass like he did for a good chunk of last year prior to the
Yeah.
injury.
They're paying him all that money.
Yeah, Derwin James is a top 3 safety in the league. It's
Agreed.
fantastic. He's probably the best like versatile safety in terms of you can do everything with him.
Oh
Whereas,
yeah,
like
100%.
Kevin Byard is probably like the best pure like coverage safety, but Derwin James I think adds more in run support. He adds more as a blitzer. He like in terms of well-roundedness and like chess piece almost as a safety, Derwin James is easily the best in the league.
Yeah, and if you go
archetype.
against Kelsey,
Yeah, you need a guy like
that's your
Derwin
best
James.
bet.
So, yeah, I think the Chargers, of course, the roster is great on paper. The wide receiver room is the best it's been, I think, in a while. Keenan Allen's still doing great. Mike Williams, for the 6 games that we're going to see him out there, is going to be
I
really
got
good.
Keenan Allen in fantasy. I need him to do great.
Quentin Johnston, I think, he might be another one that starts a little slow, but I think he'll round out into a great wide receiver, like a consistent producer by the time we get to the second half of the season or so. Austin Eckler has become a much better between the tackles runner over the last couple of years. His first few years in the league, he really was more of a pass catcher, but he has really grown his game as a pure runner of the football, and he's another McCaffrey type where you get a lot out of him both ways, and he does a lot for a quarterback. So, Chargers number 2, number 3 is Denver. Russell Wilson, no ands, ifs, or buts about it, looked terrible last year.
Yeah,
Nathaniel Hackett didn't help, but it wasn't just that the play calling was awful. I mean, there were plays where he'd have an open receiver and he would attempt throws that he would normally make no problem, but he would just make the wrong reads almost on a play. Like in terms of ball placement, like if he saw a safety, coming down one way, he would place the ball where the safety was instead of to the receiver's other shoulder. And it's like that's not
yeah,
something Russell Wilson does. That's not something you expect. He's plenty smart enough to know where to put that ball on the outside shoulder, but he would place it on the inside. That's just one specific example, but
yeah.
the
As of
decision
right
making,
now,
not
Seattle's pulled off
necessarily.
an all-time fleece.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, goodness, Denver has no future if Russ can't pull it together this year, because it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
But Sean Payton is very good at what he does. He's had a year off, but I don't think that's going to make him suddenly become a terrible play caller. He
Hmm.
knows what he's doing on
You're
offense.
still watching football.
So yes, and then
Yeah.
you got Jerry Jeudy, you got Cortland Sutton, you got Marvin Mims. Um, I like the receiver room here. I like the running back room. Goodness gracious, that sun is coming out.
Yeah.
But the running back room as well. If Javonte Williams is healthy, we're going to see a lot more from him this year, which is exciting because I like Javonte Williams a lot. He's maybe not the best like downhill runner, but he's great between the tackles. He can break tackles. He's got, he can keep it pushing after contact. I like Javonte Williams a lot. I think we'll see a good year from him if we get health. And then the Raiders are another number one pick contender, similar to the Cardinals and the. I think they'll be a little bit better. I think at the very least, there's familiarity between Josh McDaniels and Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not a fan of either of them. Josh McDaniels
Yeah.
is more of a coordinator, and even then, he was never that great of a coordinator. Jimmy Garoppolo is a point guard with questionable decision making, which is just not what you want in your offense. Because that's the whole
Yeah.
point of having a quarterback like him is he's supposed to be a safe, accurate passer, but even then, Garoppolo has never been a good decision maker at least on a
Hmm.
week to week basis. He'll have games where he does play his role really well, but then next week he'll throw 3 interceptions. You just don't know what you're getting from Jimmy G on a week to week basis. And
Right.
between that and then the offensive line isn't terrible, but it's certainly not among the best in the league. You got Josh Jacobs, and I love Josh Jacobs. And I love
Mhm.
Devontae Adams. I love Hunter Renfrow if he's healthy. But you lost Darren Waller, and you also lost Foster Moreau. He signed with New Orleans, so I honestly don't know who's playing tight end for them this year, but I can't imagine it's going to be any better than what they had last year.
What, Mayor?
Was that?
You're talking about the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
So Mayor for
Oh, they
tight end?
drafted Mayer?
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know they drafted. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
False alarm. Tight end's going to be fine. Mayer's awesome. I can't believe I didn't know they drafted Mayer. I am fraudulent. That's okay. Never mind. Tight end will be better than what they had last year because Darren Waller had bricks for hands last year. So
It just didn't stay healthy either.
Mayer's a good blocker. Mayer's a plenty good enough pass catcher. Mayer's fine. The
Yeah.
defense is another one that just they have not done enough to improve. I think on this side of the ball, and
Yeah.
maybe they won't
I
be.
mean, they tried
They
with
won't
Chris
be.
Jones.
They won't be the worst team in the league by any. But well, not to say by any stretch. They'll be pretty bad. But yeah,
Does
I just
Devontae
don't.
Adams finish the season there?
I mean, who are the takers going to be at this point? What great
Partway
teams?
through the season, when teams,
what great
we'll
teams
see.
don't have? I guess yeah, that's something we'll find out later on. But
Yeah, because we could see injuries to great teams. We could see,
yeah,
sort of things.
fair enough. Yeah,
But yeah,
so that's a question I can't answer at this point because I don't know who the takers would be right now.
yeah.
Say who is a
Just
Devontae Adams away from a Super Bowl?
Just
Yeah.
would you expect him to start requesting trade?
If they're like 1-6
0-4.
or yeah, something like
Because
that.
I don't know when the
When their bye
trade
week
deadline is.
Well, it's week 8 still, but I don't know when their bye week is. So I don't know what
Okay.
their record will be by the time we get to the trade deadline. But yeah, if they're like 1-5, 1-6, or whatever, 1-7,
Yeah.
depending on when it is, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we could
Okay.
we could see it. But what are your thoughts, sir?
Well, my thoughts are the exact same, pretty much, because I have the Chiefs finishing first, Chargers second, Broncos third, Raiders fourth. When you have the best quarterback and head coach in the NFL, both respectively, and then as a combo, not just in your division, but in the NFL entirely, you're gonna win your division. That is a really good indicator that you're going to be good. Is if you have those two things, absolutely at 10 out of 10, you're going to be good. So I got them winning the division.
Hard to pick against that, yeah.
Yeah, because the Chargers, really good quarterback, don't really trust the head coach as much. I do have them making the playoffs as probably the 7th seed in the AFC just because of how hard the AFC is. They're going to be a really good team still.
Yep.
Defense, I think they're going to be pretty good on defense, not necessarily like an elite defense,
Yep.
but I think they get better there. Chargers second. Broncos, I think Sean Payton's magic only does so much for us. I think he looks better than he does last season, but we don't see. I think Seattle Russ is gone.
I think
Seattle
that's
Russ.
Fair. That's fair.
I think Seattle Russ. I guess he's still up there in Seattle. I don't know where he went.
Geno Smith
he did not come down to Denver.
Magic. That's what happened.
Yeah, did not come down to Denver, but that defense will still be. It would be elite. It's just hard to call a team defense elite when the team itself is losing.
Yes.
But I think they'll have an elite defense, and then the Raiders will just not be good, to say the least.
That's a pretty fair assessment.
And then my prediction is that Devontae Adams at least requests a trade publicly.
You think so?
And I don't know if he gets it because NFL isn't the NBA.
Yep.
When it comes to that. So, but yeah, Raiders coming in absolute dead last, and that's in that division, which is probably it's a top. Is it a top half division in the NFL? Take both East and then the NFC North over them. Are they that fourth one?
That's a good question.
They're really carried by the top two teams, and then
they're not.
You're asking yourself, what do you think of Denver?
I don't think so because I think the AFC and NFC East are both better, and I think the AFC North is better, and I think the.
That's what I had as well. So it's just, are they fourth?
Hang on, it's a good. Maybe just based on the top two, but even then, can't you make the same argument for the NFC West? Well, I guess Denver won't be as bad as LA or Arizona this year.
It won't be as bad as that, and I think Chargers are significantly, not significantly, but better than the Seahawks.
I mean, yeah. But the NFC North could be a much more well-rounded division this year, though. So
it could be more well-rounded, but for me,
it's not as top-heavy as the AFC West. I guess,
the AFC West, to me, you at least need a Super Bowl contender, and I don't think the NFC North is shooting one out either way. I think the Chargers could grow into being a Super Bowl contender. I don't see.
That depends on Brandon Staley. I think it's ultimately up to him at this point.
So there's one team for sure it's a contender. A second one that could be. I don't see that out of the North.
I also think Kellen Moore is a significant upgrade over Joe Lombardi. I can't believe I forgot to mention that. But Moore, I mean, I understand he has his problems. I know why Dallas.
I think he needed to leave Dallas, but I still think he upgrades LA.
Well, significantly because Joe Lombardi was just flat out bad.
Yeah,
he just wasn't good.
So.
And Kellen Moore has his issues, but he's had one of the best offenses in the league, like top 5 offense, several years now in Dallas. He's not going to be worse than Joe.
Yeah, my thing has always just been, hey, he's good for. He's just good for 3 quarters. In the fourth, I see him try some things that I'm like, okay, we don't got to do all this fancy shit. Like I'm glad that you implement these things into the offense. It does help tremendously to have this variety.
Yeah.
But why are we throwing? There's I forgot what was going on, but I was like, why is Zeke throwing the football right now in the fourth quarter? I was like,
why is Zeke playing center on the last play of the game?
Yeah,
I think that was. I don't know if that was more of a Mike McCarthy thing or if that was a Kellen Moore thing.
I think it was Kellen Moore's play design, but McCarthy had to have known about it and given it an okay.
I just can't believe the last play of Zeke's Cowboys career was just him getting folded by a 300.
Yeah, which sucks because he was great for us.
Yeah,
there's some hate towards him, but he was great for us.
Yeah, he had plenty of early in his career. He was phenomenal.
I mean, he came into the league, and I think he was the best running back in football.
Yeah, in 2016, absolutely. Was the best. And what's crazy
and the season he got suspended, he led the league in rushing yards per game.
Yeah, he had over 1,000 yards.
I think he was probably still the best back
then. 10 games. He had over 100 yards per game in the.
Yeah.
Was that 2018? I think when he got suspended those first 6 games, and he still finished with 1,000 yards in the season. That was impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. So his first probably 4 years or so, he was that dude. But then.
Yeah, but then
decline probably started.
It trailed off, and then he did do a good job when we went to Tony Pollard being this duo backfield.
Yep.
He played that role very well. We'll see what he does with the Patriots. But it's just a weirder fit over there because Zeke is like what he was good at was like short yardage and goal line situation. I'm like, well, Ramondre is also
Ramondre Stevenson,
good at that.
that's well, not only that, but Ramondre Stevenson's good on any down. He's just
Yeah,
good in general. Ramondre Stevenson is, you can play him just as your running back, whereas Zeke doesn't have the speed anymore to be, your every down guy. But
he doesn't have the speed, and I mean, but Zeke can still catch.
maybe Zeke gets used more in pass protection on third downs than Ramondre Stevenson does,
Yeah,
because Zeke's the best pass pro running back in the league, probably still at this point. I
yeah.
would say that's the one thing he
I
hasn't
mean, it
lost
has
is his
been.
pass protection. Is
Yeah.
because I mean he's big enough to be like almost a fullback type out there in terms of
Mhm.
blocking. So
But yeah,
he's
that's how we have all the divisions
yeah.
turning out. You want to sign us off here?
Yeah. Thank you guys for being here. Jacob, that's Brayden, aka Dallas Benchwarmer. Of course, again, the sequel to this video, which is our playoff predictions, will be up on his channel. So go check
Mhm.
that one out when you're done with this one. And have a good rest of your day. Peace.